Well, hello everyone. My name is Patrick Russell. I do the oral histories. How this all started is my grandfather was a World War II veteran, and I sat down with him and obviously had lots of chats. And I wish I would have had the opportunity to record him, which I didn't. I was small then, but I think it's an opportunity, and one that shouldn't be lost, and that's why I'm doing it now. And you may ask, well, why do I do this? Why does a lawyer that lives in Miami go and travel around the world? Why do I go to Columbus? Why do I go to Fayetteville? Why do I go to all these other places, all these other reunions? I do it because of you, literally. This is a very low-paying job, okay? I do it for the love of it, and I do it to preserve history. I think that's super important. And what am I trying to do when I do this? We've had presentations so far about operations, about wars, about different events. Now I take it to a different level about the people. Now we're going to humanize it, the people that are part of those operations. So it's looking through history through a different lens, and that's why they call it oral history. We've heard about the bigger topics, the wars. Now it's about the people that are in them, what they saw, what they heard. And you can have, 5 people in the same line at the same time, but they're going to see different things, feel different things, hear different things. And so when I do these interviews, I explore those differences. And it's also the impact of when you come home and the impact that it had on you and your family members. I look into that stuff. So what I'm trying to do is to humanize war, humanize combat, humanize military service, and to show those that haven't served the impact that has on people and their families, which I don't think is appreciated. So that's really what I'm trying to do. And these videos are archived with the Library of Congress. I send them also to the University of Florida, where I have a partnership with. So that's what I'm doing. I was asked by Chris to give a presentation and also a video montage of some of the legends of the 508th, some that I've interviewed. And you can kind of see it was a tough task to pick who I would put in there and what segments, because I sit down for an hour, sometimes 2 hours, or in Phil's case, 2.5 hours, where we talk about, their experiences. So I had to go in there and find little pieces that I thought were unique, because everybody is unique, and their perspectives are unique. And I try to find some interesting stories. So I like to compare different eras and compare and contrast. That's one of my missions as well. So I would encourage all eras to participate, especially our young troopers over here. Please, by all means, it's important. And without further ado, I'm going to play the video. You're going to find we've got Rock Merritt, obviously, is going to go first. Some video was supplied by Chris that was taken in the field in 2014 in Normandy. So there's some segments from that. We're going to start out with Hill 131, where he won his Silver Star. And he's there, and he's telling you what he saw, what he did, and what happened. Then we have a short little interview with Rock, where I interviewed him with some interesting tidbits. From there, I believe we proceed over, I'm going by memory now, we have, we have Rock, we have Brody Hand, we have Rob Chisholm, all right, so we got some big ones there, and George Schenkel. All right, so we had some good stuff coming, so without further ado, let me press play.
This is the place where the 1st Battalion dug in A Company, B Company, and C Company reserve from this point to way other side of that tree over there. We had we moved in on the 3rd day of July, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, dug in, and was told we had to hold this hill here until the 2nd and 3rd Battalion went through us the next morning at 6 o'clock. I don't know where, somewhere along the line, they had a propaganda speaker going up wanting us to surrender and what have you. they would rake this area with a machine gun about every 30 minutes. And it was raining. I'll tell you that, a cold rain coming. I was with George Lamb, First Lieutenant of A Company, DCS winter. And it was about 2:30 in the morning. I told George, keep your people from falling. I'm going up there and see if I can get one of them machine guns knocked out. I took 6 gammon grenades, left my rifle back, and took my steel helmet off, and I crawled either on the other side of that tree there or just this side of it, all the way up to the base of this mountain. And I got to where I could lob this gammon grenade, and after the first one off, I threw 3 more. I didn't hear nothing, and I crawled out, but I walked back. So I figured there's no enemy there, and sure enough, it was George Lamb, was A Company. I just touched him. He put me in for some medal. Anyway, come back Silver Star. I don't know what he put me for. But then at 10 o'clock in the morning, 2nd and 3rd Battalion was on top of that hill. They'd already commenced it. The foliage there it wasn't that much, by the way. But we went up through police and marking, they're dead, the Germans dead, and what have you, till we got up on hill, the top of Hill 131, and we sent B Company and A Company down below the hill, and I was firing machine gun fire over them, and we lost a lot of people that day. I hope it wasn't from my overhead machine gun fire. I don't think so. But anyway, we dug in on that hill and held it until the order came for Chet Graham, company commander of 2nd Battalion, I guess. They had already knocked out 2 lieutenant colonels that day. Chet was the 3rd commander to come in, and he got the order at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He sent his 2 company commanders that was going to make the attack on Hill 95. They come back. This is words out of, and I've got a written document from Chet Graham himself. He said, his 2 company commanders come back and said, if we go this route, we're going to lose a lot of troops. This is the route we should go. He called the S3, and they said no. Then he asked again if the regimental commander, Roy Lindquist, had disapproved that request. They said, yeah, he had. But he said, okay, but he didn't comply with it. He went with his 2 company commanders and made that attack. I understood he took it with very few casualties, and I understand that right after that, General Gavin come up and complimented him on his attack. Then he found out that he had disobeyed an order, a written document, how to attack from Colonel Roy Lindquist, and they relieved Captain Graham at that time. I guess by now it's getting late, and they brought in another commander, a Royal C. Taylor. I knew real well because in the infantry drill regulations manual, who was holding the first M1 rifle? Royal C. Taylor is a corporal, you know, and so he assumed command of the 2nd Battalion. As far as I know, he stayed with that command of 2nd Battalion until after the war. And he went on to make Lieutenant Colonel, Bird Colonel, and then in the early 1960s, he was a Bird Colonel, and I was his command sergeant major, just before he retired with 35 years service, something like that. But anyway...
what outfit was that with?
Support Command, 82nd Airborne Division. As far as I know, 1st Battalion fought no more battles after this pen right here. I could be wrong, but we were getting to the point we were winding down, you know. Now it's 4th of July, and we've got about 9 days to go or something like that.
Yeah. You got some more information.
So, even to this day, 70 years after D-Day, you still have reflections and nightmares about it.
Yeah.
It's a very impactful event.
Well, it's all the people that I guess I lost here now. You know, I was a squad leader. I lost all of them except one man in Normandy, and then they promoted me to buck sergeant. So now I'm got 20 men. You know, instead of a squad, and I lost a lot of those on in Holland on Devil's Hill they called it in Holland, you know, and what have you. So of course, then I lost a lot in the Battle of Bulge. We're still going on in World War II, you know, and I got the Silver Star on the 4th of July, you know, when we was holding that base of the Hill 131 I was telling you about.
Yes.
George, do you have any idea where y'all were standing when Alexander got hit?
In the middle of the woods someplace, and they lobbed artillery or mortar fire into the trees, and I was standing within 3 feet. Another enlisted man on the other side, and we hit the ground. The guy in the middle, Alexander, he got hit shrapnel through the chest, and he lay there gasping, and blood and air, and a medic patching him up with a Band-Aid. And that took him out of military action. But Alexander was, his grandson got in touch with me, and I told him exactly. I was standing next to him, and neither one of us got a scratch, but he got killed. No, he didn't get killed. He got wounded, severely wounded.
He didn't come back.
No, I was evacuated. Yeah, well, we lost two lieutenant colonels the same day. I had compassion for coming back from Holland. I picked off the body of a dead German, a soul book, which was his record of all everything. And then a number of years later, and that was a souvenir. A number of years later, I started to think of our prisoners of war and missing in action and the families of these people, and whether they wondered what happened to this dead German soldier. And I felt compassion, and I had a friend of mine who happened to have a cousin in Germany, and I was on a trip back to my ancestral village with my sister, and I took that soul book back to this cousin of my friend and asked him if he would give it to the Red Cross and get it. I had compassion for the family of that. Yes, he was wearing the uniform of the enemy.
What was your most memorable moment from World War II?
Memorable? Yes. Okay. The 82nd, and I've always been proud of the 82nd Airborne Division. It was the All-American Division, the AA. It was formed in World War I, but it was formed by soldiers from every state in the Union, the All-American. And I remember getting out of the service, and the 82nd had been picked to be the division to parade in the Victory Parade down 8th Avenue. Jim Gavin, and I choke up when I think of Jim Gavin. He walked and led that parade. Now, I know, okay, but that made me feel so good that I was a part of this group, and I was proud of Jim Gavin, and that's why I don't know. It was an inspiring thing for me, anyway, personally, to going back to civilian life and been able to go and see Jim Gavin became, he was our hero. He was our hero.
For that.
What would, prior to combat, what would some of the soldiers do or talk about? Anything?
Prior to combat, well,
They tell stories about home, or did you
No,
do
I tell
things
you,
to
most
get your
people-
mind off?
I'll tell you, when those guys were hit bad, usually it's their mother. Yeah. Usually they all think of their mother. And, oh, yeah. You got to have a lot of faith, I tell you.
We'd run out of food by then. And so one of the men could speak a little French. He went in to get the food lined up and get that. And lo and behold, here comes the German walking down the road. And there was a stone wall that we were behind waiting. And I just stepped out with my Thompson and told him to hands up and come on, let's go. And I put him behind the wall and told the other men there to tie him up with a rope or wire or anything they could get their hands on. And later, another one came by. We ended up with 3 POWs there of the Germans. So we got our food together. We went on to the main group, and I turned him over to Lieutenant Lavender. He says, well, go out and take them care of them. And I told him, no, sir, I can't shoot a man down. He's just standing there because he's surrounded. He said, well, in that case, I guess we'll have to carry him with us. I said, well, let's do that then, unless you want to go out and shoot him. And so we went on, and we got up close to the bridge. The next night, he asked me to take us, the group, up to the bridge. Maybe we could get across. So we got up close to the bridge and stayed at another French house. And he set troopers out on the roads to guard for the night. And made it through the night all right, but next day the Germans was walking down the road, and one of the men took a shot at him, and they didn't kill all of them. They said there was 2 or 3 of them, but they got away. One of them did, and so that wasn't long till the Germans advanced on us. And of course, when they came, they had a tank destroyer or a tank, or I think it was mostly an old French cannon. It was stripped down model. It wasn't a complete tank, but anyway, it was enough to blow that French hut apart that was made out of rock and bricks and all. And we didn't last long. We fired all, of course, most of the ammunition was 03 and 45s, and that's all we had. And so the Germans that we had captured asked and hollered to the German officer that we wanted to give up. So Lieutenant Lavender made the arrangements for us to give up, and the Germans quit firing and quit. Uh, well, they'd killed a few, but not too many. We got down on the floors, you know, below the bricks and below the concrete and all that. We weren't all that many killed, and took us guards and marched us to a small village right next to the bridge, and put us in a barn-like structure that had no windows or anything in it, no way of getting out. So they locked us up. And the next day we marched out of there and headed, of course, out of France towards Germany. At that time we stopped at Atlanta. And from Atlanta we flew to San Antonio. And it happens to, when you leave Louisiana, New Orleans, you fly right over Anahuac. And I walked up to the pilot. I said, if you got a parachute, I'll be home in 30 minutes. He says, what? I says, yeah. I says, I'll get home in 30 minutes. And he laughed because he didn't know I was in the paratroopers.
Well, you were telling me a little bit earlier about evacuation. So this is what happened as a result of Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Okay, so tell me what happened for you and your family during the evacuation.
We were living in Seattle, just like any other family.
And what happened? Did somebody just come and knock on your door one day, or what happened?
Oh, what happened was after President Roosevelt signed, that evacuation order, what was that? I forgot the exact number, 90066. That was posted on all the telephone poles throughout the area. I think we had 2 weeks before we had to leave. 44, I guess. No.
All right. And you volunteered?
44, no.
And you volunteered?
Yeah. So there are a few of us that decided, says, heck, let's go to the paratroops, just to prove that we're just as good as they are. So there was a group of, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 of us from the camp Shelby that volunteered to go.
And you got selected?
I volunteered to go.
All right. And you touched on it a little bit, but how were you welcomed home when you made it back to the States after the war?
Well, I tell you, when I started to go home, I cut the ship in Bremerhaven and on to New York. But I tell you the truth, I didn't know exactly where I was going.
Why not?
Because the last word I heard from my parents, they said they're leaving camp, and I hadn't heard again. And here I am going home, and I didn't know exactly. I know they were headed back for Seattle.
You didn't know where home was.
I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't have a home.
I got it. Now I understand.
So along the way, going home on a troop train and stuff, people were all happy. We're going home. One guy, his dad had an auto agency, so he was going to get a new car and on down the line, you know. Heck, I said, yeah, I'll see you.
But you,
Well, when I got to Fort Lewis, then I said, well, I live in Seattle. I said that, you know. Then I hopped on a bus, went back. Where was I going? I really didn't know. So what I did was, I got to Seattle. I got a taxi and I went to a church, Japanese Baptist Church in Seattle. That's where my parents were members, you know. So I thought, well, maybe that's where I'll start. And unfortunately, when I got to church, the minister was there next door, you know, where he lived, and he knew where my parents were.
that was good.
So I picked up my duffel bag, and he just took me down about a mile away, half a mile, and where my parents were. When I got there, my mother was at home, you know, at the apartment.
And do you remember what your first objective was? Well, my first objective was trying to find somebody. So I walked down the road. We each of us were carrying a landmine, about a 30-pound landmine, and we were supposed to have taken that landmine and after the landing zone and consolidate the landmine so it could be used. And I know that I just took mine out. It's a pretty heavy landmine. I just took mine out and pulled the pin out of it and laid it on the road. And thought, well, the Germans, we don't have any vehicles. The Germans come down the vehicle, they'll run into it, and that'll be fine. And then I started walking, and I heard a motorcycle coming down the road, and I knew we didn't have any motorcycles, so I got to the side of the road. And when the motorcycle came in view, it was a sidecar on it. It was German, and I opened up on them with my M1, and apparently hit the driver, and they went off the side of the road. I didn't go back to look at them, and I kept walking, and I walked right into St. Mary Glees, and down to the center of town, and I saw John Steele hanging on the tower. Thought he was dead. He wasn't. He'd been wounded. And the town had already been taken by the 3rd Battalion of the 05, so I stayed with G Company of the 05 for the first 3 days until more from the regiment, the 508, came in. And then we had a large enough group, we got together and went and joined the rest of the 508.
Now you have the great distinction of being one of the few to have 3 combat infantry
I do
badges,
have, yes.
correct?
That's the combat infantry badge with 2 stars.
And that came from your experience in
Korea and
in
Vietnam
and in Normandy.
and Normandy.
And there's less than, what was the number? 325 or 345? You know better than me. In the history of the U.S. Army, it's very few.
I'm not sure. It was less than 400 that's been awarded nationwide. And of course, I guess there'll be no additional stars awarded for it. That 3rd award is about the highest you get. And I think there's now, I believe I heard a figure there's 135 of us, maybe still alive, that was awarded the 3 badges.
Have you ever heard of the phrase that war is hell?
Yes, I have.
Do you agree with
I
that?
agree with that.
How so? What was your experience that you would agree with that statement?
Well, the experience that leads me to say that more than anything is the fact that those soldiers that you served with and became, you're not blood brothers, but you really are become brothers. There is no closer relationship than serving with a man in combat. And when you see them killed, it's just devastating. You don't ever forget it. And there's nothing more horrible than to lose so many of your friends in a conflict that was it worth it? Yeah, I guess it was. If we hadn't gone into the conflict, we might be living in an entirely different world now. But it's just something that you'll never ever forget. I can very distinctly remember each action in which my closest friends were killed, and then when I wasn't there, like in Normandy, after I was hospitalized, I came back and I walked in the orderly room, and I see a company clerk sitting there, and I sign in, and I say, introduce myself. Don't know him; he's new replacement. And I said, well, where's the first sergeant? He says, first sergeant was killed in Normandy. Then you get down into your company, and you're looking around, and you don't recognize a lot of people. And you start asking about them, and you find out that they were killed too. So there's nothing good about a war. An armed conflict certainly is necessary at times. If we hadn't fought and defeated Germany and Japan, where would we be today? We don't know. And of course, I think World War II was justified. I didn't like the way that Korea went. We fought under the United Nations flag, and we should have won that war. We're still at war with Korea. I mean, that's a truce. We're still at war with Korea, and I think it's one of the greater threats we have in the country today, because those people, when they said, they kept talking, well, we're going to attack South, and nobody believed them, and they did. And this guy now, they hadn't seen him for a while. This guy now says, well, we're developing an atomic bomb. We're going to drop the bomb on you. And you'll never know when the guy will do it. That's the type of person he is. But I think it affects most everybody. It's some more than others. It's PTSD now that they've got. In World War II, they called it shell shock. I remember Baldwin, Texas, out on a roadblock, and all at once he went berserk. And in my company, and I was, my God, what has happened to him? And he leaves, and you never see him again. You never heard him again. And but there was more reluctance in World War II. If something like that happened to you, you might end up getting court-martialed. And I know that he must have been had some disciplinary action against him. So in World War II, the people were very reluctant to let on that they were bothered by something, although it would happen in very isolated cases. And then in Korea, there was a little less stigma attached to it. And they at that time, they weren't court-martialing a person for going into shell shock, or the term that they used. And of course, in Vietnam with Agent Orange and everything, it began to be worse. And right now, practically everybody that's coming back, these kids are going for maybe 6 deployments, 7 deployments. And you think, my God, how terrible that is, and their family. And you see one of our young members in our Benavides chapter, Omar Hernandez, 6 deployments, wife and young kid. Now they're divorced, and so the situation changes as the years go on. But yeah, war is hell.
Wanted to have lunch with the President of the United States. On June the 2nd, that was the evening before my son and I were to board a plane to Paris, France. I got a call from the White House, a simple call, and he said, "You're the one of the few that's going, the many that's going to sit on the platform with the President on the 6th of June. And we need your bio." So I just think of this as a security check, you know, what have you. Well, my son and I arrived in Paris. We were trained down to Caen, rented a car, went down to St. Mary Glees, and on the 4th, they got a call from an aide from the White House and said, "We want you on that platform at 9:30 on the 6th. The 5th of June, we get another call. It said, "The President of the United States wants you to have lunch with him." Can you make it? They were talking to my son. My son said, "Yeah, I'm quite sure I can make it." He said, "We need you there at 9:30. There's only about, I don't know, 50 or 60 miles from St. Mary Glees to the American Cemetery. We left at 6 o'clock in the morning. We got within 3 miles of it. They parked our car, put us on a bus, and we finally got to the cemetery about 9:30. I got off the bus, and an aide from the White House picked me and my son up. She said, "I'm going to show you where you're seating out on the platform." Took me up there. Then she took me down and said, "The helicopter's going to land right here, and this is a VIP quarter set here, and the President wants to speak to 6 veterans." And you went up. Okay. And we sat there, chopper landed, the President got off. We had a couple of colonels and a couple of guys in wheelchairs and a Marine there. I told them, "I know you people know, but that's our Commander-in-Chief. When he comes up to you, you should salute him and report whatever you are, you know." So I was the 4th man in line. He come to me and I saluted. I said, "Sir, Command Sergeant Major Rock Merritt, U.S. Army retired." He looked at me and he said, "Rock, I know all about you." I said, "You do?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I read your bio when I flew in here." He said, "We're having lunch, aren't we?" I said, "They tell me so." He said, "I'll see you later." Then the aide take me back up on the platform, and halfway through the speech, he starts talking about the 508.
Yeah.
Rock Merritt did this, he done this, and why he come into the Army, and why he didn't go into the Marine Corps. Now he's retired, he's instructing squad leaders down at Fort Bragg, and this and that. He mentioned the 508 about 3 times. That was all a surprise to me. I had no knowledge that was in there. You know? So anyway, when it's over with, here comes this, and another aide. He said, "The President is going to talk to handshake, do a little politicking out there. I'm going to set you down here at that VIP quarters right by the helicopter, and someone will come and get you." Well, and about 30 minutes later, somebody did come get me. It was the President of the United States. He walked up and he said, "Rock, are you ready for lunch?" And I said, "Yes." I thought at this time, just me and the President, maybe 4 or 5 people, was going to have lunch. We got in, had these here 2 seats facing each other, and we sat down. In the helicopter were Susan Rice, National Director, and a colonel and his wife from the 101st, and a photographer, and me and the President. They put my son in chopper number 2, you know. So he started asking me questions. I mean, good questions that I had the answer to. You know, all about my family, about my 35 years in the Army, and what I've done about out of the Army, and this and that, and what have you. His last question to me, when we was about ready to land, we flew, I think, about 40 minutes. He said, "Rock, how how long did it take them to get you ready for combat in World War II? I said, sir, in my 18th month in the Army, I was leading a squad of men right here in France. And I said, you know what? Today, we have tried for 11 years to train Afghanistan and Iraq to get their police force and their army up to strength so they can defend their own country. I said, we haven't got there yet, have we? And this took him back. He back. That was not pointing at him. He studied it, and then he said, Rob, you're right. Well, I know I'm right now because what is it? Iraq right now is losing the battle over there because their soldiers won't do it, their police are not doing it. Anyway, I'm still thinking I'm going to have lunch with 5 people. We landed about 2 miles from a chateau and got in a SUV, big black SUV, and we're driving to this chateau for lunch. And we got up. I could see it, flags are flying everywhere, bands are playing, different people in uniform. And I seen a red carpet that was going straight up and down there, it looked like half a mile. And he pulled that SUV right up to the end of that carpet and he said, Rob, Secret Service will open my door. You stay exactly like you are, I'll open your door. He come around and opened the door. And we hit on this big red carpet, and here comes the president of France, double time, walked that long run. He come up and hugged us. I thought he was going to kiss us, you know. And he got in the middle of us, and we were walking down this thing. The first person I seen was President Putin. I said, oh, something wrong here. Then the Queen of England, the Queen of England. Then I seen Philip right behind her, you know. Oh, something's wrong. And we got to the steps, and another aide from the White House got a hold of my arm, and of course the French president, he took Obama to his seat, and this aide was going to take me. I said, and this is exactly what I said to her. Man, would you tell me what in the hell's going on here? She said, didn't they tell you? She said, nobody told me nothing except I was having lunch with the president. She said, this is a 22 nations, head of 22 nations. They have this get-together once every 5 years. And it lasts about an hour, hour and a half, and what's happening. Well, they set me down between the president of Poland and the one from Canada. Polish guy, he couldn't speak no English, and I couldn't speak no Polish, so we didn't get along too good. The guy from Canada, he could speak English. Well, I had this corporal jacket on, and he said, Rock, you mean to tell me you retired as a corporal? I said, no, sir. I said, this is the rank I jumped in Normandy with, and I just thought it'd be appropriate on the 70th anniversary to do that. And he said, well, I'm not good. So I don't know, we had about a 4-course dinner there, what have you. I just followed everybody else who was doing it. But anyway, this aide was watching me. She said, if something goes wrong, you hold up your finger and I'll be there. You won't see me, but I'll be there. Well, when the lunch was over, she come to me, and keep in mind, my son's vehicle and me, we're 40 miles away from the chateau. And she said, the arrangement has been made for 2 Secret Service men to drive you and your son in one of them SUVs over to where your car is parked. I'll lead you out there. She said, no, I better wait. The president may want to say bye to you, and if you're gone, I'm in trouble. So anyway, here comes the president with the queen. They can't find the restroom. You know, I pointed to the president, he comes over, showed her where it was. Then he come out there. Meantime, my son had joined me. The president walked up and he said, this must be Jerry the golfer. Because I told him that Jerry had shot a 76 last week, the lowest score he's ever shot. So he's talking to Jerry about that. And an aide de camp was sitting by the president, big, tall, 6'6" guy. He pulled out a golf ball, handed it to the president. He signed it, he gave it to Jerry. Then he reached in his pocket and gave him one of them challenge coins. you know. I said, okay. Then he said, I think arrangements been made for you to, for our people to take you over to your car. I said, yes, sir. And so he shook my hand, and I saluted him. I said, sir, you made an old soldier proud. And he said, no, you made a young president proud. And that's the way we left it.